Welcome to the STC. My name is Warsmith Chris, and this is Winters SEO, and
Hello.
This is the STC, the Story Time Podcast,
pod.
often called the STD.
I don't know why.
I don't know why. That's
Why
not a
would
good name
anyone
for
ever call it like a standard template construct? It's it just works.
It's thematic, right? It's about stories, and it's about something that's really important in Warhammer, and not about horrible things that happen to your junk. Like hot lumps,
Itching
and hot lumps. No one wants that.
No.
Anyway, how have you been? What did we do last? Did we do a live? Last time you saw us, were we live? I
think last time was a live one, but I do want to shout out actually the last two episodes of the STD. If anyone missed them, you need to check that, because I think they were video perfection. I listened to them again all the way through. I was talking about the Primarchs and the Legions and the things like that. And I feel like not only is it the best work that we've done, it's probably the best lore that is on YouTube ever. Ever.
Wow.
Maybe the best content on YouTube ever created. Maybe.
Could it be the best content on any visual platform?
It could be. It quite well could be. It's just genius of intelligence, of imagination, of good conversation, insight, wit, humour. It was a beautiful thing.
Handsomeness.
I don't know how we're going to beat it. Handsomeness? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't know how we're going to beat it.
But anyway, I wanted people to know that we were live last time. And if they watch this, if you watch the STC podcast and you didn't come to the live one, first of all, shame on you, and I'm going to ring the shame bell. Shame.
Yep.
Because we had a great time. We had a laugh. There was no technical problems with it.
No, none at all.
It went really smoothly and without a hitch.
Yep.
And it should be smooth and without a hitch every single time. And
I figured out that you need to plug the headphones into this thing.
I need to go in there,
and then that's it.
It might have been about 35 minutes into the live show, but he did figure it out. So we've conquered that obstacle. But anyway, the live show does require that people come in and give us questions and cool things to talk about,
which we've got today.
And today, yes,
we have.
Today we did talk about what we're doing today. We said during that one, I think during the last episode, that we're going to be giving it like fair dues. We've got to talk a little bit about chaos, right?
Right. Yes. Now,
here's the thing. Obviously, Winters is a holy follower of the Emperor. He is, he's a very good boy. He follows the Emperor, blah, blah, blah. I have recently seen the light of the Emperor in the most extreme ways. And I've been doing a lot of Black Templars. So this feels a little bit heretical. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about chaos, and then to cleanse ourselves, we're going to set ourselves on fire live. No, sorry. We said we weren't going to do that. Sorry.
No.
To cleanse ourselves of all the heresy, we're going to answer some questions that people have asked on the Discord. People have sent messages to me asking for it, for some questions and all these lovely things. We're just going to go through some of those.
Yeah.
And as usual, if you want to ask questions, sign up to the doohickey. Press the button to become a member.
Yep.
Go for tier 2 or above. Join the Discord.
Yep.
Go to the STC thing. You can ask a question there, or you can send me a message and ask me a question there, or do whatever. If you're a bit shy.
But mainly become a Winters SEO
do that.
YouTube channel member.
Yeah, become a Winters SEO YouTube channel member, because that's the only place you can see the STC live show and this podcast.
Yes,
is that correct?
On Winters. Yes, that's right.
Winters SEO. So,
what is the topic today, Chris? Because have you actually got a title for it?
Yes.
You prepped?
I prepped a title for it in advance.
Right, okay.
It's called
Oh.
The Depths of the Immaterium.
The depths.
Hang on.
The death.
No, not
death.
the death. No, the
derpy immaterium.
the crazy world
Right.
of the Immaterium.
Okay.
And then it's going to have a little Monty Python pop up saying, "'Tis a silly place." It'd be great. It'd be fantastic. Anyway,
Let's
what
not go
is-
to Camelot.
yeah, it's a silly place. The Imperium, right? It's known by many names. Okay,
The Imperium.
It needs to say the Empyrean or the Imperium and the Empyrean.
Don't you mean
different things.
Don't you mean the immaterium?
The Immaterium, the
Yes.
Empyrean, the
The
warp,
Empyreum.
the Empyrean, yeah,
Mm.
the Empyreon,
Yeah.
the warp, which is chaos. This is all part of the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a little mind melter, right? So to try and explain it, all you have to do is you have to start with the concept that we've got our lovely universe that we fly around in and discover all these things, and we kill all the natives, take their planets for the Imperium, all this kind of stuff.
Heretics. Yeah.
Heretics, yeah.
And
then
natives. Yeah.
existing alongside that,
Mm-hmm.
we talk about the veil, don't we? In life, we say you can glimpse behind the veil to look into
Right.
the world of spirits and things like that.
Yeah.
Similar kind of thing. There is a backdrop of pure psychic infinity, and this psychic infinity is strongly affected by the things that happen in the real space, in the real world. Right?
Yeah.
And in this psychic infinity that we're calling the Immaterium,
Okay.
time isn't a thing. There's no time there. So essentially, everything that exists there has been there forever.
Yeah.
It's going to be there in the future, but it also doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
So as long as you can get your head around the concept of something existing, not existing, having been there forever,
Yeah.
will always be there in the future,
Yeah.
and there's never been born. It doesn't. You get that in your head, and then we can start to see what kind of a place that we're looking at.
There's no time,
No time.
no space,
No.
no Starbucks,
No Starbucks. You're
none
already
of that.
born. You're already dead.
unless there is a time and a space created by beings who already dwell in the. I think the Sea of Souls, that psychic thing that you talk about, because there's.
Yes.
The real world affects the Sea of Souls, but things and currents in the Sea of Souls also affect the real world.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is a two-way thing going
Yeah.
on there.
Mm.
And it's posited by some that the fact that life exists, that the life forces of the real world, the real space, are what perpetually feed and change and create what is in this immaterial world.
Yeah.
Now, when travelling through the Immaterium, you will see things like impossibly large shapes of things.
But can we stick a pin in that?
Yeah, we can stick a pin in that.
Why would people ever want to travel through a timeless depth thing upside down? Why?
Well, because it turns out that it's also a very handy way to get from one place to another place as well. Because it doesn't really have it's not really there, and it is there, and blah blah blah.
Because
you can
there
use
is,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, you can use it to.
Traveling from A to B takes a very long time.
It does.
But going into a place where there is no time means you can get from A to B in no time at all, or sometimes even arrive before you left.
Yes, or sometimes you're in there for a very long time.
Yeah.
Don't always know what's going to happen. It's a bit of a mishmash.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Star travel goes through the warp.
Yes.
Yes.
And there are certain ways, there are certain places, there are certain corridors. There are corridors that exist alongside it. The webway of travel and things like that. It's all interlocked, and
We're not
it's all
talking about the
mysterious.
webway, though.
We're not talking about the webway right now.
No. Dolmen Gates, all of them.
No, we want to leave that out of it because...
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go right back to the start, which essentially isn't the start because there's no time, right? So just before this, I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about the 3 original Chaos Gods. And then Winters was like, there's 4 there. And I'm like, yeah, but the 4th one can't... No, because there's no time.
Yeah.
So they were always there. So
the 4th one appeared here in the 30th.
Yes.
No, probably the 25th. Yeah, 25,000. But it doesn't mean Slaanesh wasn't there before. Slaanesh was there before.
So we talked about Slaanesh.
Didn't manifest to us.
Yes.
You know, it didn't have the banners standing on the picket line saying "Vote for me." That didn't happen until after she was let out into the real world. But before it was back in there with the picket signs and all of the little gribblies with the one booby because Slaanesh likes that. Yeah, that was always the thing.
It was always there. So we talked about this in the War of Heaven, which I think was the 2nd episode. We did,
right?
Yeah, we talked about Slaanesh being birthed in the War in Heaven. At the very end of it, we were talking about what happened with the Eldar. I think that's when we talked about it.
Okay.
Anyway, Slaanesh was born. Blah blah blah. But before, in the timeline of a storybook, let's say, where you have to have a start and beginning because it's in real space.
Yes.
Essentially, what you had was these 3 primal forces, right? You had who aren't known by name until a lot later in time to us as peeps, right? As the humans. You have Khorne, you have Tzeentch, and you have Nurgle, and they represent 3 facets of the struggle of life, as it were. Khorne being the survival, and having to fight and exist, nature red in tooth and claw. Way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then Tzeentch is the change, the evolution, the adaptation, the constant adaptation. That is constant change needed, and of course, Nurgle is the face of entropy and death, which is something that we will have to deal with. And because of the way that we said before that it's a big infinite psychic plane in the immaterium, when acts of the living kind of relate to these different facets of chaos, they essentially they feed off it, right? These chaos gods feed off it, which is why perhaps Khorne is considered to be the big daddy chaos god, because violence is inherent in man all the time, right? There's always violence, there's always
violence is inherent in nature.
In nature, yeah. And it's the very nature of nature is that it has to consume each other. And blah, blah,
it's
blah.
not just the little bunny rabbit consuming the lettuce and tearing it apart. It's also the lion consuming the little bunny rabbit, and then the sun consuming the planet with the lion and the bunny rabbit and the lettuce on it. It's war all the way down. It's that fight for survival.
Yes.
Poor little lettuce at the bottom there.
The lettuce always gets the raw deal.
It does, doesn't it?
Gets kicked around by everything.
Plant life always gets beaten up unless it's on Catachan, and then the plant life
that's
up
true.
You.
Yeah. Even the humble carrot is dead.
Yeah.
But anyway,
the things that you could cause some real pain with a carrot. Yeah. You can make that. You let's not talk about carrots and where you can.
No.
Anyway.
Yeah. Khorne originally, like back in the old days of 40k lore, Khorne was also the god of justice and like fairness and stuff as well. I think a long time ago. But he's more been adapted into like the whole blood for the blood god and skulls for the skull throne.
Second edition, it was codified.
Yeah, very very singular on that path.
Yeah,
and then because of the nature of chaos and because they are the baddies, all this stuff is kind of twisted into the kind of worst version you could expect of it. So, yes, Khorne is fed by the violence of nature and all this kind of stuff, but then it turns into you must spill blood at all opportunities and tear out people's skulls from my skull throne, and violence and slaughter is everything, and I'm going to make you constantly angry and in pain and furious so that you're always trying to spill blood, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And whereas like evolution and change and adaptation, which was Tzeentch's kind of realm, turns into cunning and trickery and
Cunning.
And
trickery.
And sleight of hand and misdirection and all this kind of thing, where you get these concepts of these long games that Tzeentch plays. Tzeentch is playing the long game, and something that he did 5 millennia ago might only start to show itself now, and then this is just another step in another 5 millennial plan or something. And then Nurgle, who was obviously the god of entropy, part of life, sadly, is that everybody just slowly... we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? I'm getting older. My back is hurting really badly. That's just what happens, entropy.
It's interesting because Nurgle, a lot of followers of Nurgle believe that Nurgle is the god of life.
Life, yes.
Yeah.
New life. But that is a perversion, again, just like with the other ones. His idea of new life is, hey, 1 million new lives in the form of maggots and bacteria bursting out of your bloated, rotting corpse, which is lovely. But, they all bring their own promise. And the way you'd think that on face value, being offered those things of, being a disgusting, rotten lump, or being mutated and changed, or becoming a furious killing machine, or because Slaanesh is also there, becoming like a crazy orgasm monster, although they always skillfully dodge that in the books. There's always different words to describe the rapturous pleasures.
Well, no, because it's the god of excess, the god of extremes. So everyone always immediately thinks about sex. But the god of extremes, the god of excess could be, I'm not going to build a wall 4 feet high, I'm going to build it 40 feet high. The god of extremes, the god of...
I want the money.
Going too far. All the monies, all the time.
All the food,
Yeah, not just eating one lettuce when you're the rabbit, eating all the lettuces with the rabbit. That drive within us to just not give in to entropy and death and war and corruption. It's excess. It's
And whilst maybe Slaanesh's kind of gifts, you might see why someone might want them. You might look at it and say, well, why would I want to be a blood mad follower of Khorne, or why would I want to be a twisted mutant acolyte of Tzeentch? But the way that chaos works, because chaos cannot manifest directly into real space, right? The way it works, well, I mean, the chaos gods themselves cannot manifest directly into real space. They're just too powerful, right?
Yeah, you've got some pollution that seeps through, and then there's tears in realities like the Great Rift and things like that, and
So they can create. They create their demons, as it were, who are an extension of them to a certain extent.
What is a demon?
Well, it's a being of. It's not born. It's not alive. It's a creation of pure energy, and it is created by something. It is created as a manifestation of something. Now, in the ADB book, in ADB's fantastic books, there is a description of how when you're hanging around in the immaterium, which happens to a lot of the losing side of the Horus Heresy Astartes later on. Like there's constant little things are created in little psychic beings are created all the time that reflect your state of being, what you're thinking, how you feel. That's the Popo.
Like the Popo.
They always come when we're recording because they want to shut us down because we're leaking. We've got full information.
I'm not leaking right now. Maybe I wiped. No, I think I'm okay. I'm not that old.
Yeah, but you can manifest you can manifest entities, can't you? Essentially, psychic.
Yeah, but what is a demon? What is a demon prince of Khorne? What is that?
Okay, well, within the chaos pantheons, let's say, because you've got your chaos gods who literally can't go out there and do things, right? They can't manifest in real space because at that point you've basically just merged the immaterium with real space. because of the amount of psychic energy they bring with them. So the way chaos works is through slow and subtle corruption, starting at a very base level.
Right.
So the first signs that we see of it in the books, in the lore, because it has been around in various states for all of time. And interestingly, it goes throughout Games Workshop's gaming systems. Chaos is something that is actually the same. Chaos is the same throughout all
the old world and Sigmar, and it's like, see, that's an interesting point, because I think chaos is a truly Games Workshop IP idea.
Yeah.
Like the Tau, very Gundam, Tyranids, very Zerg and aliens, but chaos, you don't get that in Star Trek, Star Wars thing. You know, it's the 4 chaos gods and all those horns and skulls and things. It's a truly unique IP. So yeah, I like it. It's very 40k.
Yeah, I really love it, and you can also get a nice experience of it via the film, which is definitely not based on the concepts of chaos, which is Event Horizon.
Yeah, the guy who wrote that was a big fan.
Yeah, it's very clear. Similar themes. You get an idea of what we're talking about here.
40k homework for anyone who hasn't seen Event Horizon. Go and watch Event Horizon. Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, so at the start of the Horus Heresy, chaos is something that's. Is the Emperor aware of?
Yes.
The chaos gods by name and what they are, or is he just aware of the forces of the immaterium? Because obviously that's why he tells everyone to stay away from it.
Yes, we have to assume that the Emperor knows them extremely well in order to build a Primarch still far from the gods at Moloch in order to infuse his genetically engineered super creatures. We have to assume that. We have to assume also that he is, well, there's many references of him fighting the demons, George and the Dragon, fighting other things way back in time. Also, before Magnus was born, before Magnus came out of his pod, Magnus talks about having a long, complex relationship with the Emperor, and that he knew the Emperor really well in his spiritual form way before he was ever born, and the Emperor saying stay away from those things over there. So it is the Emperor. Nothing is ever certain when it comes to the Emperor, of course, in Warhammer 40k lore, but the assumption is, oh yeah, he knows, which
He's
is
astral projecting at night in his
he
chamber.
knows so much more than we even know, which of course leads to the great question, why didn't he warn them? That sort of thing, you know, which is just naive thinking on the part of...
because he's the 5th chaos god.
Malal, the 5th chaos god.
No, sorry, he's the 6th chaos god, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, he wants to be the 5th chaos god, and then you have the 6th, then Malal, and then you have Vashtor now, the Archifane. And
oh yeah, Vashtor the
Be'lakor has been trying to be a chaos god for some time now. So there's other pretenders for the throne there. But we'll cut that out. We'll cut that out. He knows.
Yeah. Okay, so he knows. So the way it works is you start hearing
Demon Prince. Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about. Yeah, I'm talking about
what
the very
is
first.
A demon?
The very first time, the way that demons
manifest
can manifest,
right,
is that they need to start by influencing real space, right? So the thing you get is you get a nice little demon lad. Now, the Chaos Gods can have created a hierarchy of their demons, right? And they can bestow their gifts upon people, and through that way they can create avatars in real space who are essentially them working in real space through corruption. Now, the first time we know that this can happen is in the original 3 Horus Heresy books. We start to hear a spooky voice. I can't remember whether he immediately refers to himself as Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hear the whispering, and essentially we learn very early on that in the right circumstances, a demon can possess a person.
Yes. And
Sabas possesses a space marine. What's his name? Sergeant.
Someone.
Jabba the Hutt.
I his
Jabba,
name.
Jabeo. Yeah, it begins with J. He's a sergeant,
Yeah.
and they basically have to put him down quick. And it's like, oh shit, we're not telling anyone about this because that's definitely not right. That shouldn't be happening whatsoever. These are like Astartes. Why the hell did that just happen?
And Loken asks Horus, what was that? And Horus says, well, demons are real.
Yeah.
So the Emperor told Horus.
And then Horus says, demons are real, but still that didn't actually happen though.
No, he does say demons are real, but don't think of them as demons and blah, blah, blah. Think of them as... This is what the Leagues of Votan think of them as well, which is just another... It's an extra-dimensional place. So across the galaxy, we've got different planets and different stuff, and then there's another dimension, and then there are these Xenos-type things that live in this ulterior reality that can push through. And I think Horus actually says to Loken, like in the past... people have put this down to demons or angels or gods or things like that, but Imperial Truth, we're much more enlightened than that. It's just a tsunami, it's just a forest fire, it's just part of the nature, it's just part of the fabric of the universe, and that's where they come from.
So there are people in the know, and this is happening, and we now know that they can possess an Astartes, and that gives them entrance to this world.
Because they can come across, but the weaker ones flicker away, and then they can't stay here for a long time. Then they're only here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
But if they want to stay in the material plane, then you need a possession. You need to take some of that physical juju and pour your demon soul into it, and then you can party like it's 1989.
I think there are also cases where demons have literally start to tear through the fabric of reality, and you start to see them like ghosts standing there like, hi, I'm on the other side of the veil right now and I'm coming in, like, hi, and it's like, oh, this doesn't look good. So they can do that as well, but they don't really care. They don't really care for what happens when you kill one, unless you use a very magic sword that Gilliman has now. Yeah. You can't actually kill them, can you? They go back to the psychic
There is another way to kill them. You can. So demons, if you destroy a demon in human form or in bunny form or lettuce form or whatever, and banish it back to the immaterium, they will reappear. So Samus gets knocked down, he gets up again. You can never keep him down. They come back, but the Emperor's Sword will shatter souls. But there is another way which the Grey Knights use, which is true names. True names is a thing running through the Horus heresy. That's why Annuncia has so much power. That's why the Custodes have their names written around them. Yep. And if you can, one of the ways to become a Grand Master in the Grey Knights is you've got to study lots and lots of books about all the true names of demons. And if you know a true name of demons, you can do either one or two things. You can banish it back to the warp, or you can destroy it utterly, because what a demon is a bit of corn, as you said at the beginning.
Yeah.
He can't manifest. So what it does is it makes these tiny little avatars of itself, bits of itself. It plucks off a hair, and that's a bit of it. And then there's bigger and bigger and bigger ones. And they've been rocking around for some time. And you can destroy that essence. You can destroy Samus if you know his real name. You can destroy that. And the rites of banishment is something that Grey Knights do. Yeah, they do those things.
And that's actually based on biblical stuff, isn't it? Because I'm pretty sure that's how it works in our lore, in human lore.
Yeah,
you get to know some demon names and stuff. But anyway,
so there are ways to destroy them completely, their essence, but they're very rare and they don't happen very often. And the Grey Knights have a monopoly on that. And if you learn about the Grey Knights, they'll come and put a bolt round in your head, so no one knows what they know.
Yeah.
They don't even have all the funky armour yet, all the Primera stuff yet. They'll get there.
They'll get there, and they'll start reading taking names and
taking names and kicking ass.
Yeah, that's the one. But they don't need to take names; they'll be giving names, saying names, and kicking ass.
Counting heads, giving head.
All right, Bob. he knows my name's Bob. Get sent off. Anyway, so I was actually trying to make a point, because we like to go off on a bit of a tangent. I was trying to make a point that why would you turn to these guys when they're clearly, it's bullshit. It's, you know, it's not a great situation to be in.
Why, Chris? Why?
Becoming a Rotary guy. Well, the thing is, they come to you and they get to you when you're weak, right? And they whisper to you, and they whisper secrets, and they will find ways to get to you. And some of them are more subtle than others. Tzeentch obviously will look for people who need answers, need knowledge, need solutions, need a quick fix for something. Khorne will, I mean, if we're going back to like fantasy, the fantasy version of the same Chaos Gods, like Khorne was something that the warriors who didn't know anything about the gods really would wear the symbol of Khorne, because they knew it was like a battle god and things like that, and it would help you fight harder and fight stronger. And I guess if someone's whispering to you, that they'll grant you strength. And Nurgle tends to get you in a bit of another nastier way, and that is that you feel really, really shite. Like, imagine you've got proper man flu and a big headache at the same time, and he goes, "Can make it go away if you want."
Yeah.
Do you want to have man flu?
Yeah.
And a headache? Do you want to keep taking that Lemsip? The lemon flavoured one? Lemon?
There's a bit though, like you're talking about the hook, the way they hook you in.
Yeah.
Now, there's two things there. One is there's a choice that people make at some point, because it just gets worse and worse and worse. The horror, the sacrifice, the killing, the murder, or the disease, and then they have to make a choice to cross the. That's quite important. But there's also, but there's also the idea that once they've got that drop in, once there's a little bit of oil in the water, then it will just get worse and pollute and spread and spread, and bit by bit by bit by bit over time, until eventually there's hardly anything of your soul left, your personality left, your thing left. So the transition, instead of being I'll change. Well, yeah, it's just it just happens. The scenery around you and your soul itself evolves to such a point that you can only ever go that way. You only see,
And we gush a lot about
insidious. Insidious is the word I was looking for. Sorry,
we gush a lot about ADB in this show, and I think that's never going to stop.
No.
But in the Night Lord trilogy, again, there's fantastic kind of the way it looks at what's the name of the leader of a claw?
Well, that particular leader, is he the Ascended?
The Exalted.
The Exalted, yeah.
There's a great thing about how people, they believe that they are still in control.
Yeah.
And they believe that they are being their skills and their talents and their abilities are being supplemented by this demonic power.
The demonic power is subservient to them.
Yeah, it never is. And no matter how it looks, we get a really good look into the psyche behind this, and you know how it's going to end up.
Yeah,
we won't spoil it, but you do get a very good look into that, into the idea that someone is saying to you that I'm completely fine, I'm absolutely fine, and you're looking into their eyes, and you're like, are you sure? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Just like someone who's completely drunk thinks, no, I'm in control. I'm absolutely fine. I'm still me.
I'm sober. But as a judge.
But drunk version of Warsmith Chris is terrifying compared to sober version of Warsmith Chris. And drunk version of you might think that you're in control and might think that you're just you. But drunk version of Warsmith Chris gets arrested and put in jail for trying to molest those sheep. Whereas sober version of Chris... That would never have happened.
No, they'd never have known I did it.
Yeah.
So I'd be way more careful.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, it is exactly that. Yeah. It's It's being drunk, thinking that you're not drunk, or you're thinking you're in control, and you never really are. And that's exactly what it's like having a demon in you, except you're drunk on demonry.
Yes.
And that's how they get you. And through those people, if they take key people, if they take the Space Marine captains and guard sergeants and people who were supposed to be religious, thinking about the word bearers, if they take on the names and they take on the faces of important and influential people, then they're going to get more people, and thus their power grows, and thus they are able to generate more warp energy, more of this warp rift energy, and thus they are more capable of creating a weakness in reality where they can bring a lot of horrible things to bear. And the best example in the Horus Heresy timeline we're going on now is the events that happen on the moon, the moon of Davin. Davin's the system.
Yeah.
Davin's moon.
Davin's moon,
which is the real turning point in the Horus Heresy, because it's the first time we really see a horror en masse.
Yeah.
What happens on the moon of Davin?
What happens on Davin's moon is that, Horus goes to the Davin system after his battle with it's before his battle with the Intrex. It's after murder. And he finds in the Davin system that the person that he put in power on Davin has let the idea that a planet that was once pacified and has joined the Imperium has turned from the Imperium. This was the first time it had ever been known. It's like, why would they, we're bringing them out of unenlightenment and chaos and bringing them. So it was a slight, and it was also the War Masters fleets, compliance fleets that turned Davin into a nice place. And also, I forget who the chief of Davin was, because when the compliance fleets go out, then they'll take an Imperial Guard commander who's like maybe a bit old. Here's a world for you to retire on. Here you go. You can stay there. You can do their thing. It's 200 years in here, so there's a nice thing. And this Imperial Guard commander felt abandoned by Horus, and that's how they got him. And that's how they got him.
They always
so
get
the
you
world,
somewhere.
the world turned, and then Horus turned into the system. He heard that it turned traitor, turned up into the system, and it turned out that the big ship from the fleet had been crash landed into the moon of Davin, and then they touched down in the swamp with the Des Irae as well, an Imperator class Titan.
Yes.
And loads of zombies, and loads of swamp, and loads of Nurgle everywhere. A big... see, the thing about this as well is because we see it all like really, really obviously, like, wow, look, that's Nurgle. And then he finds the Anathema, gets stabbed by the Anathema, and then has to go to the Davin surface, the world surface. And it literally describes from orbit, because I think Garvey or Loken takes a Stormbird down to try and stop the ceremony, that the temple is an 8-pointed star with piles of skulls. It is the most corny chaos temple. If you or I or anyone with even an inkling of 40k saw this temple and how it was laid out and the description they give to it, it's like, that's chaos. But back then the Space Marines didn't know, so you got a Nurgle moon, you got a planet with some chaos dudes on it, and then they managed to turn him.
I remember reading that chapter for the very first time. It was on a Kindle, and I was sat in Croydon UK Immigration Centre,
right,
where I was going to be for the next 7 hours. And I remember not caring, like, I was really not looking forward to having to sit there all that time. And I got to that chapter and I was like, okay, it's on. This is happening right now. And it was absolutely beautiful to sit there and read that and experience that for the first time. But yeah, fantastic. And that really is the first time we see chaos en masse, and we do see on many other occasions how having groups of people who are already susceptible, weak minds, happens on Cadia as well. They can perform rituals, and they can make sacrifices, and they can do terrible things which grant demons powers to come through, and the people on this side of in real space, if they do lots of good chaosy things and they start to turn very chaosy,
chaosy things.
Yeah, things that are good for chaos,
as opposed to bad chaos.
Yeah, not nice. Things that benefit chaos.
Can I have some examples of good chaosy things as opposed to bad chaos?
No, okay, right. Bad chaosy things. They're all bad.
Right. Okay.
For example, if in the name of Khorne, a Primarch were to do a number of things, they might be turned into a demon prince. Or anyone can become a demon prince if they want to. They can essentially, as we said before, the demon becomes the true nature of the person.
But what are bad chaosy things?
Stop
it like
focusing on
making a house out of different coloured bricks? Is it listening to Taylor Swift? What are bad chaosy things? What's a good chaosy thing? Is it shaving all the hair off a poodle? What is a good chaosy thing?
I mean, that is
like sacrifice something. I don't know. Do we go for shaving hair off poodles to human sacrifice? Which one of them on the scale of chaos?
Human sacrifice, good chaosy thing.
Right.
Shaving the hair of a poodle, good chaosy thing, because it's just horrible.
Change.
Giving a child a bag of sweets.
Yes.
And then not eating them afterwards, eating the child. It's a bad chaosy thing.
Okay.
So good chaos is doing bad things.
Okay.
Bad chaos is doing good things.
Okay. Teenage bedroom, is that good chaos or bad chaos?
That's just chaos.
Okay.
That's chaotic neutral.
Chaotic neutral.
It just is what it is. Yeah, chaos is chaos in itself is just the natural order of things.
Right.
The fact that everything breaks apart, entropy, different, random. It's chaos. When it happens deliberately, it's good for chaos. It's bad for us when it happens.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, without going into the morality of chaotic actions,
right.
There are many ways. And unfortunately, in the 41st millennium, there are many, many people that are doing lots of things that allow the forces of chaos to come into real space. And we've got to remember as well that half of the legions, of what remained of the legions anyway, basically had to fly off to the warp. And the longer you spend in the immaterium, the longer you spend in there, the more you are taken by it, consumed by it, become it.
The more it rubs off on you.
Yeah. And like it rubs off all over you.
Like a cat. A cat fur hair gets... In this house, there is not one part of this house or a bit of item of clothing that I put on, even once it's come out of the washing machine, that hasn't got cat hair on it. It's like everywhere. And
what you're saying is that if you were surrounded by that 24/7, but more, just eventually you would just become mainly cat.
I'd become a furball, like one of the cat hair everywhere. That stuff. If you're surrounded by it all the time, that talks to you and promises you. Hey, you can catch this. The laser isn't a lie. I can teach you how to get that red dot.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a great analogy for chaos. So there we go. The only other thing I want to touch on as well is that going into the immaterium and traveling through the warp, using the warp travel, actually is not very good. You don't want to go there unless you're totally into chaos already, which is why Geller fields were created, and to keep basically the second you started to warp travel without a Geller field up, you would be instantly set upon by hungry demonic beings.
Event Horizon.
Watch Event Horizon. That's it. Homework.
That's warp travel without Geller fields.
Don't warp travel without Geller fields.
Did you know that Titans have void shields?
Yes.
And that the void shields on Titans is modulated Geller technology.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Does that mean that if you were really strong, you could throw a Titan through a warp rift and they'd be cool inside?
Well, what Gellerfield technology does is it refracts stuff from one dimension to another. So it refracts the immaterium into real things. So that particulate stuff of all the warp, that non-reality becomes reality inside the bubble, and it's like they're flying through space. Warp. And in the real world, the Gellerfield technology, what it does is it transmutes all that real world energy and basically turns that into warp energy, which means it isn't in real space anymore. So it turns the warp stuff into real stuff when you're there, and turns the real stuff into warp stuff here, which doesn't exist here.
Okay.
That's what Gellerfields do. They flip the electric charge.
I didn't know that.
And that's what Titans do. And then also Storm Birds have it, and Mastodons have it, but that's what Imperium Void technology does.
Does that mean that when you're being shot at, the things that are being shot at you are effectively going into little slithers of warp?
Yeah.
And that's how we get rid of the damage?
Yeah. 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 It's basically sending that shot into the warp.
Yeah.
And while you're in the warp with Geller technology, it's sending that negative energy, that entropy, that whatever's hitting it into real space.
Nice.
But it can't exist in real space, so it dies, just like reality can't exist here, so it dies. That's the math. That's the theory behind it.
I like it.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
All right, I think we've had
warp travel and Titan technology has gone hand in hand. As one grew, the other one grew, because Titans are known to pre-exist the Imperium by a long way.
Yeah, they're very cool as well.
Yeah.
I was looking at Imperator Titans, or Imperator Titans, however you want to pronounce it.
Well, there's not one class. There's Imperator Titans, there's Imperator Titans. There isn't, like there's different types of Warlord Titan. You've got the Mars pattern war. There's different types of... Reaver Titan is the main battle Titan, main standard battle line Titan. Warlord, though, there's quite a few variants. Warhounds, there's quite a few variants. When you get to Imperator class, there isn't really any one... Each of them is individual.
Right, you see.
Each of them is so some of them might fall under the Imperator class.
Yeah.
But the point is, if
they're
you're going to build
things
like the Bismarck, like the Yamatoto, someone will write it. But like battleships, like the greatest battleships ever built, there's only tends to be one of them.
But when I was a child,
yes,
when I was
there was a class, but
when I was a young man,
right? When was that?
Always in the 1991,
really
1992.
God, you're old.
I remember looking at the walking, the cathedrals walking.
Yeah, the cathedral walk. Yeah, for
the cathedrals walking. Yeah. And I remember thinking that was just about the coolest thing I could think of. Like this, there's like a town on the back of this thing, and I want that to happen. But how do we have that? How do we get one of those? Can we have those in 40k? 60 meter tall cathedral.
We might get them in Adeptus Titanicus, because the warlords are this big. So all they need to do is release, like knights, normal knights.
Yeah.
If they release a knight-sized Titanicus model, then they can do that. And so if they go Adeptus Titanicus changes to Adeptus Epic, then we might get these big things.
I would love that.
Yeah, there's other things like the Imperialis and the Leviathans for the Imperial Guard and things like that. There's other super heavy things that they could make for...
But they don't all have a cathedral.
They don't have a cathedral,
on their back. And
you need a cathedral.
And crenellated turrets and stuff all over them where people could just live in it. I'm like, you could just live in it. You could live on the side.
Leg has an entire company of Skitarii and an army inside ready to charge out.
It's a barracks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Incredible. And I just want that in my life. I want that.
Yeah.
Full size. I want to charge a company of Skitarii out of the bottom. Out of its legs. Full size 40k one.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not going to happen.
It should be twice the size of a Warlord Titan, at least.
Yeah.
It
would be nuts. What's your name's Winters, isn't it? Winters. Hello. We're going to do some questions.
Are we?
Yeah.
We've been promising questions forever.
Promising it, and I think we should do it. I'm just getting to my pinned
I'm
I've got
excited.
a bunch of pinned messages.
Do you want me to open the thing? I've got some. You've got it.
I've got it here, unless there's a particular one you wanted to read out. But we did promise Sky, first of all, that we'd do Sky's question. We actually said, I think, twice now that we're going to do Sky's question.
Okay.
Which one? Sky's got 2 questions.
Has he? Oh. Well, we'll knock one of them off quick and I'll spend longer on the second one then.
Okay.
So, to get your questions in to the STC Storytime podcast, then become a Winters SEO channel member where you can fill in the questions and then we'll answer, yes, live.
Like
here,
this.
Like now. And I'll put some brain towards this. Not a lot of brain, a very small brain, hamster-sized brain. And Chris might add his hamster-sized brains. And then we have 2 hamster-sized brains that be making sweet law love.
Guinea pig brain size,
what?
probably. It would be like a guinea pig sized brain then, wouldn't
Guinea pig brain, and together we'll make a content babies out of our brains for you. So that's the
Well, I'm going to read these questions and see if you can remember which one we would like. Yes. So the first one was...
Let's get them all out.
Sky says, how come that in order to deceive Horus into rebellion and chaos, a complex plan was necessary? Anathema, the 10 days vision, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And Fulgrim was deceived without even realising it by simply being in possession of a silver sword.
Okay. The answer to that question is all of the Chaos Gods planned to take a Primarch. They were all complex and they all took a long time to bring about. So, for example, the Khorne's one, they originally went after the Blood Angels. They've been working on that Legion for a while through the Revenants and then had to go to Angron. Tzeentch's plan involved polluting the gene pool of the Thousand Sons, doing a deal with Magnus. It also involved getting inside the Skald that we read about and hear about during Prospero Burns through the terror manifested by his friend who dies like 100 years earlier in that library on Terra, and the voice that follows him through time. We originally think it's Magnus. We originally think it's a Thousand Son that interacted with him way back, but it turns out to be Tzeentch itself. I mean, the Skald is brought before Leman Russ, the Wolf King himself, and Leman talks to the Skald and says, Magnus, can you hear me? And starts beseeching this Skald before he attacks Prospero. Says, look, I don't want to do this. You can lower your shields, you can do this, you can throw down your arms. I don't want to have to do this. But the entity that he's really talking to through the Skald is a manifestation of Tzeentch itself. It's a long drawn plan, and the anathema and what happens to Horus, and then the sword with Fulgrim is a long, complicated thing. You've got to have a species of Xenos sex creatures, because where he finds the sword, it's a temple. It's on floating cities of color and light and sound, so they're clearly obsessed with Slaaneshi things, with this sword stuck in the middle, which someone would have had to make the layer, the blade, with all these sex creatures all the way around and stuck in. And the blade itself may have not been enough to turn Fulgrim to Slaanesh, like he nearly, but there was enough of his own people that went down to the planet and enough of the remembrances that went down to the planet, so that when they went back up to the ship, the remembrances who went down there start making paintings and art and statues inspired by what they saw down there. Then the other remembrances on the ship in La Fenice start seeing these other things and the colours and the vibrant, and then the Space Marines start going there as well, particularly the branch of Space Marines who like art and poetry and stuff like that, which is a thing in the Emperor's Children. So it isn't just about the sword, it was about the experience of the humans and the Space Marines being in such a place that disease, that pollution could make its way up to the expeditionary fleet and then start bleeding through the fleet itself. And more than that, the Emperor's Children was one of the legions that was going to die. There's some very unknown weird shit that happened hundreds of years before, which meant that their gene seed was destroyed off the Saturnine rings. So they had no replenishment stocks, and they were slowly dying out over time, the Emperor's Children, until it got down to the last 300, that movie, but there was only about 300 of them left, and Fabulous Bill was working really, really hard trying to stabilize the gene seeds, trying to generate more gene seed from Space Marines, until Fulgrim turned up on the seed. And because Fulgrim was there, they were able to get some more gene seed and perpetuate the Legion. It's why the Emperor's Children and the Sons of Horus or the Lunar Wolves spent most of the Great Crusade crusading together, because the Emperor's Children were buggered. The stories around what happened to the gene seed and the destruction of their stocks are unknown. There's a lot of other weird, fateful things that happened during the Emperor's Children evolution, which always put them on the back foot, and always put people like Fabius Bile and other people striving a little bit harder. Their way of war, their way of fighting with the Lunar Wolves was always about being the elite, being the best of the best, being the fastest, being the most perfect. We haven't got 10,000 warriors to throw at the problem. We've got 10. So they have to be the most perfect warriors ever. The story of the corruption of Fulgrim doesn't start at the sword. The sword is 3/4 of the way, or even 9/10 of the way of the book of the corruption of Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children. Just the other 9 chapters, they're a lot more subtle. And the sword was one of the last things that helped, and the humans that went down, and the Space Marines that went down, tripped it over the edge. Each of the Chaos Gods and their corruption of each of the Primarchs is a long, complex story that goes back many, 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 many years before the contact between the Chaos Gods and the Primarch in question. That's my answer to that question.
That is a fantastic answer. Sky, I think, that's very comprehensive, really. That is.
Thanks. And if you want a comprehensive answer to a comprehensive question like that, or even a stupid question like that, then become at least a tier 2 Winters channel member. Do you like how I pimped that shit there? That was good.
That's beautifully done.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Do we want to give Sky another question, or should we? Because that was the one, I think, that we said we were going to talk about.
Right. Well, let's do some more, and then we might get back to his.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
We've got Rue, our
hi Rue,
beloved Rue, who is one of the fallen emperor, fallen from the Emperor's grace.
First name Kanga.
First name Kanga, yeah.
Why has he fallen from the Emperor's grace, Warsmith Chris? Why would you say such a thing?
I cruelly peer pressured him alongside his. I think several people peer pressured him at one of our narrative events, and we convinced him to turn his Marines were on the fence, right?
Yeah. And he's at a narrative event.
He's at a narrative event
with his Marines.
He wasn't. He was struggling. He needed some help, and the Chaos
Gods.
Gods.
You came up to him and what?
I just offered him the assistance of the Chaos Gods, the true gods of the.
He's fighting at a narrative event. He's struggling, and you offer him unlimited power if he shouts out to everyone in the room, saying, "I'm turning to chaos."
Yeah.
And,
and when we saw those models next, they were desecrated. Their power armor was desecrated. He went
his whole legion.
Yeah. Forever changed. And then we did it again with another chap.
We did, didn't we? Like a year later.
Oh, I'm really sorry I can't remember your name. I see your name a lot because we occasionally talk about it. Yeah. But I just am terrible at names. He's got an army of Beastmen Marines.
Oh yeah.
And he was trying to give me some garbage talk that they were good guys.
They were the loyalist of the loyal, weren't they?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how they look, they're still loyal.
If a Black Templar walked up to one of those Marines and he was like, I have faith that this Black Templar will be trying to chop his face off, no matter what. There's no chance that any of their loyalist brothers would fight alongside them. No. And I said, you know what? Why would you be part of a regime? Why would you be part of an alliance of chapters that would treat you like that? Why don't you turn to your true brothers? Give yourself over to Tzeentch. And he hasn't been better. Now he's got all the Tzeentch stuff. It's all good. Everything turns out the best when you make the right choice.
Literally corrupted a couple of Imperial. And then the Weekend at Bernie's at March. You're going to do it like once a year for you. Now you've set the standard.
Yeah.
Now you want to do it again, get another one.
Well, I can't do it now because the weekend at Burnings that's coming up, we're all playing. Everybody's playing. There are no... So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to need your help. We're going to have to peer pressure someone without any of the power. We can't give them any powers, but we can still try and peer pressure them. We'll have to think of a way, but yeah. We've got Rue's got loads on here, so I'm just going to go with one.
Okay.
Why are the Xenos not really included in the narrative updates for 40k? Doesn't look like anything would change in arcs. Why ain't the Silent King doing more?
Yeah.
Basically, why is Xenos not part of these main story arcs at the moment?
Well, the main story arc has presented to us in the core rulebooks and always been presented in the core rulebooks and the core updates is always from an Imperial point of view because we're humans. So
yes.
That's why. Now, you can get some deeper lore and some deeper backgrounds by going outside the core stuff. But since first edition, it's always come from Imperial-ish point of view.
Indomitus, though, Indomitus had a lot of... there was a lot of advanced... No, not Indomitus.
Psychic Awakening.
Remember the Necrons?
The Silent King stuff.
Yeah, the Necron.
The Pariah Nexus.
The Necron 9th edition box.
Yeah.
That whole series of stories about the Necrons, where the Necrons are really brought back into the picture again. I mean, they are there, but yeah, like you said, the story of 40k is a battle between humanity and the forces of chaos.
Yeah. When we talk about the 40k timeline, we automatically say, right, at the beginning there was the war in heaven, and then the Emperor, and then we don't talk about the 40k timeline. Okay, right, we were the Necron tier, and the star gave us lots of cancers. We don't talk from that point of view. Or in the beginning there was Gork, smash. Sorry, in the beginning there was Mork, smash. Sorry, in the beginning, and you don't get much further than that. The timeline of 40k is human-centric because we're humans. You
get to forge a lot of your own narrative with Xenos factions, don't you? You can.
I have to say though, the return of the Silent King to the Necrons should be considered as they underplayed that. It'd be like the Emperor coming back.
Yeah.
It's like Horus coming back. It should have been. Yeah, the return of the Silent King should have had a greater impact. Not necessarily massive, but a really, really big impact.
To episode 2, where we go over the war in heaven, I don't want to draw too many parallels between reality and that, but it's a god figure, essentially, from the beginning of time, has returned. It's probably, It might even be more than the Emperor in terms of the scope of the universe.
Well, the Emperor never won the galaxy, whereas the Silent King did.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah. And he's somewhat omnipotent, but with his own amongst his own people. Although he does sever his ability to see them all, right? I think he frees them before he goes into exile. I think he frees the Necrons.
Yeah, well, the thing is there's always a triarch. There's always the head and then the two Praetorians, not Praetorians. What are they called? Pharaons. There's always two Pharaons. There was always two Pharaons below his court, and a Pharaon always has two overlords. It's the triangle, right? And so when he came back, the two biggest Pharaons that were out there in charge of their entire things, they're the now two dudes that stand on the throne. You know the model with him?
Yeah.
They stand with him. He doesn't say anything, and they immediately agree with him and straight. So he's immediate mind control or something or da-da-da. They need to do something more with them. If you actually look on they do galaxy maps in the front of every single codex.
Yep.
If you look at the galaxy map for the Necrons, about 2/3 to 3/4 of all the Necron tier, all the Necron kingdoms, worlds, dynasties, are actually in Imperium Nihilus. They're actually in the dark half.
Yeah.
So I hope that that's why they underplayed the Silent King, and I hope that 10th edition and particularly the next Necron Codex have them making a much more powerful impact into the the dark half and the Imperium that still live up there. It should be significant.
Yeah, and you got to remember as well, in terms of the story, like we said, Warhammer 40,000 is essentially telling the story of humans versus the forces of evil. Is that age-old story archetype. Yeah. And as much as I think people would enjoy the Xenos and things like that, there's no way really to keep that story pure and consistent if you try and dabble too much with outside forces. So I like the fact that we have our own little stories. You know, if you like the Tau, you can see the expansion of the Tau, and that not everything is set up within the narrative to be an ultimate galaxy player. The Tau aren't, for example. The Tau are quite small in comparison to a lot of factions that could overrun them. Yeah. You've got I don't know how big the new Votan lads, how big their forces are.
Bigger than the Tau, much bigger.
So it's much bigger than the Tau, but are they enough to influence a galaxy in the same way that the Imperium could?
No, they don't care.
Exactly. So your epic moments are all going to come between humans, and as we've discussed today in the Immaterium, is infinite. Yeah. So you've basically got humanity standing against an infinite darkness.
Ooh. I like that.
Yeah.
See, that's what people like. Little Timmy walks into the store and they say, "Little Timmy, it's about humanity standing against the infinite darkness."
Will you stand? Will you hold the line?
Or will you become part of the dark?
Will you be consumed by the darkness?
Molded by it. I was born in the darkness.
There's one here from Fropoem that says, why aren't some of the Space Marines, e.g. Erebus, Corphaeron, Typhus, Ahriman, ascended into demon princes? I think interesting question, because they all do, to a certain extent, they all do things that would appease. I mean, apart from Ahriman's interested in doing his own thing, going around doing his own thing. Typhus. Now I don't want to get this wrong, but I have a feeling that Typhus is kind of jealous of Mortarion, right? They don't really see eye to eye. I think Typhus perhaps wants to be.
Well, see, this is the thing. The idea is that a demon prince is something that you ascend to be, but a demon prince isn't something that you ascend to be. You would want to have all the powers of chaos that chaos can offer you and still retain your own identity and your own. So I'd say that these characters are they're sufficiently powerful enough or resigned within themselves to take and use and manipulate the powers of chaos to the nth degree without being corrupted and turned. A demon prince is a demon of note, one with a name that has captured a human soul, essentially. And Chaos perhaps doesn't want to capture the soul of Erebus, doesn't want to take away Ahriman, doesn't want to. Chaos wants to feed these Trojan horses, these weapons of war. Demon Princess is not. There isn't a clear ladder.
Yeah, and I think characters like Erebus as well have served a completely different function, and will continue to serve a completely different function. There's no use in having him as a possessed being, because he's already totally for it. And like I said, Ahriman, I think Ahriman is completely caught in his own cycle of seeking knowledge and doing his own weird things, and he doesn't have a face anymore. His face is completely gone.
Well,
so he is tainted by Tzeentch, but what's the point in elevating him to princehood as well? There's
some questions about whether Ahriman actually ever turned.
Well,
he may never have turned.
Exactly. He doesn't. I don't think he's a bit. He feels more like a Fabulous Bill character to me. He is an agent on his own, but he still thinks about and still is aware of a loyalty to his his Dusty Boys, his Dusty Legions.
Yeah, and he still wants to. There's that bit in the what's it called? This not Psychic Awakening, before the Psychic, the Growing Dark. You know, when it went from 7th to 8th.
Yeah.
Where some of his guys were given their soul back, and he jumped off the webway and straight into the immaterium straight after them. He's still on this quest.
Yeah.
You see, Slaneshi Boy's got loads of demon princes, but he's only got one Fabulous Bill.
Yes.
And he doesn't want to change Fabulous Bill. He's doing his work. So ascending to demon prince is not the route for some of these.
Yeah, it doesn't benefit. You only become a demon prince if it's a benefit to the Chaos God who's making you a demon prince.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Fabulous Bill doesn't want to become a demon prince. He doesn't want that. You've got to want it.
Yeah, got to want it. I think we got more questions. I think let's save a chunk of those for.
Chop me one more, quick.
For
one.
You want one more?
One more. Go on.
You guys are lucky.
Give me one. Give it to me, baby.
Right. Who do we like? Any of these people?
I don't. Well, do we?
I mean, Rue asks a question that's more.
We've done Rue.
We've done. Yeah, I know, but Rue and Sky have asked the lion's share of questions. Be Rue, be Sky. Ask a lion's share of questions. There are a few others, but we'll get to those. They're quite big.
There was a quick one though.
Well,
I remember
Rue just
the quick
says,
one.
What do you think is the worst and best retcon that DW have ever done? I thought we could have something a little more casual than a heavy lore question.
What? Who? No, there was one. There was one.
You got one that you want?
Yeah, there was one about Tyranids, wasn't there?
Oh, sorry. Wrath of Constantine.
Oh, yeah.
My bad. I did promise Spencer. See, I'm a terrible person. Spencer asks,
right,
are the Tyranids fleeing a previous galaxy because they are being pursued by another race, or are they attracted to the biomass in our galaxy and just finished devouring a previous one, or are they currently infiltrating this galaxy for another reason?
See, that's a really good question.
That is a good question.
Could pursue another one or just attracted? It's a really good question, and the reason why I wanted you to ask it is because you can answer it really quickly by saying no one knows. The end.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.